For most anglers, the primary goal isn't just the catch, it's the silence. It is a deliberate pursuit of isolation, a way to put as much physical distance as possible between yourself and the noise of the modern world. But that same distance creates a dangerous trade-off. Every mile you hike into the woods is a mile away from emergency services, witnesses, or any form of help. In these remote spots, the very privacy you're seeking functions as a total lack of support. This line marks a psychological boundary. Above is the familiar terrestrial world. Below is a dark void operating by different biological rules. Casting a line tethers you to that void, reaching into a space where you are no longer the dominant species. This means a perfectly secluded fishing spot is by definition a perfectly secluded trap. It's a place where the environment can shift from peaceful to predatory without anyone else ever knowing you were there.
This is exactly what Jay and his brother JJ experienced at a remote wooded lake. They had developed a habit of fishing late into the night, enjoying the total solitude of the water after sunset. While positioned on a rock formation at dusk, they noticed ripples far across the water. A figure emerged, not a fish, but a person standing upright, swaying with a rhythmic, hypnotic fluidness that seemed to command the water rather than fight it. The figure submerged, and JJ started a stopwatch. They watched the seconds turn into minutes. The figure stayed under for nearly 3 minutes, an impossible feat of lung capacity for someone swimming through freezing subsurface temperatures. When she finally resurfaced, she was much closer. She was a young woman in a swimsuit, seemingly immune to the bone-chilling cold that had made Jay recoil at the first touch. She offered a playful, alluring invitation for them to join her in the water. But the moment they turned to flee, the mask of a friendly swimmer vanished. She began shrieking, a raw, rhythmic sound that lacked any human language, echoing through the woods as they ran for their lives. The horror of this encounter doesn't stem from a monster, but from a violation of biology. We are hardwired to trust the human form, but when that form begins to operate outside the physical limits of our species, surviving the freezing depths and the lack of air, it becomes something far more threatening than a stranger. In the Louisiana marshes, the threat changes. Here, the water is shallow, muddy, and totally opaque. It is an environment that feels smaller, tighter, and completely blind. When an angler named Angel dropped his phone into the muck, he was forced to step out of his kayak. He stood waist-deep in the freezing water, blindly feeling around the bottom with his feet to find the device. Without warning, something wrapped around his ankle with immense strength and violently yanked him under. He wasn't just slipping, he was being actively dragged away from the kayak. Angel thought his way back to the surface, but the description of the attack was haunting. It didn't feel like the snap of a jaw or the pinch of a hand. It was a powerful wrap-around grip that he couldn't identify as any known animal. Even after extensive research into the local wildlife, nothing in that ecosystem matched the behavior or the physical sensation of the grip that tried to pull him into the mud. This is the reality of murky water. Above the surface, your vision covers a wide radius, but the moment you step in, that advantage vanishes. You are effectively blind, and in that darkness, you are no longer the apex predator. Sometimes the threat is never even seen, it is only implied. A group of teenagers learned this after slipping through a fence to fish at a restricted county reservoir at sunset. Along the shoreline, they discovered an abandoned canoe wedged into the reeds. It was out of place, seemingly drifted there without being tied off. The contents of the boat suggested someone had been there just seconds ago. There was fresh fishing gear, a half-eaten sandwich, and an unlocked cell phone with its flashlight still glowing, casting a small beam into the growing dark. An abandoned phone is a massive red flag. No one willingly walks away from an expensive lifeline, especially not with the light still on. The scene shifted instantly from a quiet evening to the aftermath of something much more sinister. Their suspicions were confirmed when a belligerent figure appeared on the far bank, screaming for them to leave, before plunging into the water and swimming directly toward them with aggressive speed. This is where the mind becomes its own enemy. When you find the personal belongings of a stranger left behind in a hurry, your imagination fills in the violent gaps. The fear isn't just in the man swimming toward you. It's in the question of what happened to the person who owned that phone. The survivors of these encounters never truly return to normal. One angler can no longer go out without a chaperone. Another is plagued by a constant unease whenever he enters the marsh, and the teenagers have abandoned their spot entirely. In every instance, the victims were left without a logical explanation. They were left only with the memory of a peace that was shattered in an instant. We think of the water as our playground, but it remains a wilderness we do not control. The extreme isolation that anglers crave is the exact mechanism that leaves them completely defenseless when the unknown finally reaches back across the line.